really cool. I love it. It's like I've stepped back into the medieval period. It's a really magical place. And this looks like Geoff's field. So, hi Geoff, thank you very much for inviting me to come and have a look at your meadow. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it and having a look round.
Right.
So, would you tell me a little bit about your meadow?
Well, it's a very old pasture field, but it isn't. And it is a meadow, I suppose, but it's not everybody's idea of a meadow because it's not that old. It's been reseeded. I suspect it always was a meadow. We're 1,000 feet up on the edge of Dartmoor, and my guess is that it wasn't reseeded much in the past. But we have, believe it or not, we have ploughed this 10 acres, 1,000 feet up on the edge of Dartmoor years ago and reseeded it, and not done anything else since. So we basically, well, when I was dairying, we used it, obviously the cows used it, and now I sell the grass for whatever, and people either cut it or graze it or whatever.
So 50 years ago when you arrived here, you ploughed it up and planted.
Yeah, well, I was young and enthusiastic then, and it was probably more interesting then than it is now.
Right.
I now know.
Yeah.
Because it probably had a lot of species on it, and I wasn't as much interested in those things as I am now.
Yeah.
I was interested in surviving and making a living.
Yeah. Yeah, well, totally, yeah. So I see you've got some sheep in the field at the moment. I think I can see 6 of them.
Yeah, they're not mine. They're some that belong to teen school, actually, and my son looks after them out of school time. So they're nothing to do with the farm. We've never actually kept sheep. We were basically a dairy farm originally,
Yeah.
50 years ago, because everybody had to go dairying. That was what you were told to do. And then we got rid of the cows, and I'd always had some pigs, and we had what was then a large herd of sows. We developed over 100 sows for a good many years and fattened all the progeny, and that's how we made our living for a good long while. And in the summer, the sows came out on this piece of ground quite often.
Yeah. Okay. So at the moment, you don't normally have animals grazing on here.
We normally sell the grass, and people can either graze it, or they can cut it, or they can cut it and graze it.
Okay. So you don't really want to manage it, do you? You just want somebody else to come and do it?
I want to keep it as a bit of increasingly old grassland. It isn't old, but it's beginning to get diverse.
Yeah.
And so that's what we'd like to do. Keep it tidy. Keep it cut it once a year, probably graze it a bit.
So you usually cut it for hay, sort of.
Hay or haylage or silage or whatever these days.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're particularly aware of the flowers, so are you waiting for them to set seed?
Yeah, we try not to cut it too early. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should imagine you get quite a bit of hay off this.
Oh, you would do, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's especially in a dry year, relatively speaking, because it's a damp meadow. Although it's 1,000 feet up, it's very flat and there's rising ground around. So in a wet summer, it would be very wet.
Right.
In the winter, it gets very wet because there's clay underneath it. It's like a miniature Buffy basin I sell people.
Oh, right, yeah.
There's clay under it.
Clay, yeah. So let's go and have a look at some of the plants. You got finer grasses like crested dog's tail and sweet burnel grass. There's not that many coarser grasses like the cocksfoot and the false oat grass either, so that's good. It's August at the moment, but I love the yellow of the buttercups and the bird's-foot trefoil and the cat's ears. It's really lovely. There's quite a bit of red clover and white clover as well. And of course soft rush in the damper areas. And Yorkshire fog must look lovely when it's all out in flower. This central part of the field really is quite rushy, so it must be damp most of the year. Of course it's August at the moment, so it's pretty dry. You always think of Dartmoor as being rather hilly, but this field is surprisingly flat. Yeah, I can see why it gathers the water and it's damp during the winter months.
It's an old, I'm sure it's an old meadow, or was an old meadow, you know. I think it probably wouldn't have been ploughed much originally.
No.
And we ploughed it and reseeded it, and then left it alone.
This place really is right up on Dartmoor. I can see a tor at the far end of the field.
We have a windmill over there which pumps water. It isn't our only source of water, but it's quite useful.
It looks like a really old-fashioned
Well,
one.
it's probably Victorian. I bought it at a farm sale some years ago and put a new pump on it, and it works like a charm.
Great.
Yeah.
So how big is the field?
About 10 acres-ish
10
altogether.
acres.
Yeah.
And it was always a big field like this, was it?
As far as I know, yes. It's
Yeah.
never been... well, that bit there was a hedge there originally which divided off that bit of flat, slightly higher ground there, which is a bit drier.
Yeah, cool. Great. Thank you, Geoff, for letting me have a look around your meadow. It's very interesting.
It's a pleasure. I like to spread the importance of meadows.
Yes, definitely. It's nice to see a wild meadow. I know it was ploughed 50 years ago, but that's still a significant time ago, and you've got some good diversity in there. And the hay cut I think would be a good move, because obviously things dominate, the grasses can dominate if it's not hay cut.
Yeah, we try to cut it once a year and then graze it.
Yeah, great. So thank you very much for letting me have a look. It's been
a pleasure.
interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, I have.